That's right, it's Nick Dutch back again one more time. Hi there, how the heck's it going? Okay, we got a very good inquiry here today coming through from a particular YouTube user. This is what he's saying in his private message to me. I've been watching your channel for some time. We generally agree on a number of points. However, your recent video expressing annoyance at the Yoyodyne device got me thinking. I know that you're a believer in tarot and actively engage in card reading. Just out of interest, why are devices like this irrational and deplorable, but tarot is a legitimate pursuit? Could you maybe flesh out why you think tarot stands up to scrutiny, and more interestingly, how it actually works? You often seem to promote skepticism and chuckle at organized religion. I guess I couldn't help but think this was a bit of a double standard when it comes to tarot reading, really. No offense meant, just curious. Okay, well, that is a very, very good question. You know, how comes I can be critical of Kent Hovind, but yet I can be actively promoting tarot? How can I be against Bible literalism, but actively promote tarot? How can I be against someone selling miracle spring water, for instance, but actively be in favor of tarot? Let's try and break this comment down. I know that you're a believer in tarot and actively engage in card reading. That's one of the sentences in the messages. Am I a believer in tarot? Well, essentially, when I'm selling this service, it is being sold as an entertainment service, and rightly it should be, and I think it should be considered in that way as well. Now, weird things do happen in the conversation of a tarot reading, but essentially it is a conversation. To the most part, you know, essentially all kinds of other issues that the inquirer might have, they can bring out during the conversation with the tarot reader that they wouldn't want to have, a conversation about with a close friend, a family member, a colleague at work, or anyone else, or anyone else close to them. And sometimes people will use a tarot reading as part of their own therapeutic process, as well as seeing a counsellor, speaking to their doctor, talking to whoever, as well as talking to their friends and everything else. It's just part of the whole process, and it is something which people assume does have some form of therapeutic benefit, and I can use these things intelligently to try and help people get over various different issues. So it's a combination between entertainment and therapy. Am I actually a believer that if I turn over a few cards that it necessarily describes in its own right what is going to happen in somebody else's life? I don't think I can actually say that. Okay, I don't think it's worthwhile saying that. It acts more like a psychological or a hypnotic form of conversation in its own right. If I'm doing a tarot spread for myself, I may have an idea in my mind of something I want to try and get some perspective on, and there may be some combination of symbols coming out in the tarot which seems to give me some kind of reflection on the subject, but it's more a question of reflection and different ideas. Now, there's different genres of tarot reading in its own right, completely different genres. There's how shall I put this? How shall I describe it? It's quite a complex personal service, realistically speaking. There's times when essentially the reading itself is only 5% of the entire conversation. The other 95% is dealing with the individual, dealing with their issues, and just trying to help them get some clarity. Okay. Then, of course, there's people who are just interested in what the creative message of the cards could be, and there's lots of other ways of doing it. Okay, and everyone does it differently, and blah 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 blah, and every single client requires a different form of service. So it's up to me to actually have a brilliant knowledge of humanity, so that I can then provide them with a variety of conversation and or service and or entertainment and or whatever that they actually need at the time, or seem to need at the time, taking into account what I know about them. So is it a question of me turning around to you and saying, I know your future? No, it isn't. Is it a question of me turning around and saying, I know what's in your mind? No, those would be hard truth claims. And this is not what I'm trying to provide. What I'm trying to provide is something which can be used to help people with the help of the vehicle of a conversation, realistically speaking. Do I sell this as if it was like a miracle spring water cure or treatment? No, I don't. Alright, now, yes, on my Keen.com and my live person profiles, I've mentioned the fact that I've been in 2 witchcraft covens, I've mentioned the fact that I've been trained in chaos magic. All that stuff is true and factual because of my history associated with the movement. Alright, so essentially I've got a good idea of the various forms of New Age ideologies and religions which are going on in the world at the moment. And there's lots of, hard facts there. There are some people who will write on their profiles things like, tarot is thousands of years old, when basically tarot itself isn't, especially not in its current form. Okay, tarot is a couple of hundred years old. Card reading, we can say historically goes back 5.5 centuries in Europe. All right, we know that from archaeological evidence. Apparently, I researched it at one point for a potential TV interview that I was going to be hired to participate in, which unfortunately didn't come off. But never mind. But yeah, there's some real history to tarot. It is quite fascinating. But it's a question of the way in which these things are expressed. Am I like, let's say, well, I'm not going to mention any names, okay, but there's some people who say that they are being given their power by God, alright, full stop, finito, statement of hard and fast fact, and they do so not on a broadcast which is labelled as for entertainment only. Those people are bad and wrong and nasty and evil in my humble opinion, okay, that's just flat out inappropriate. But to sell something which is an entertainment service, to try your hardest as an ethical individual to provide whatever it is that the individual requires as a result of what you know from what they say, how they say it, how they express themselves, and to try and help them, that is a completely different genre of idea than turning around and saying, I am Yoyodyne Industries, this particular device will revolutionize your flow of love energy throughout the universe, and so on and so forth. Okay, these are different ideas and different genres and different methods of expression. Even the way in which we use language and the medium that we express them through should say something about the ideas, ideologies and genres that we as individuals are trying to promote, and something about the service and the variety of service we're trying to provide. It is dramatically different. So the next part says, could you maybe flesh out why you think tarot stands up to scrutiny, and more interestingly, how it actually works? Okay, do I think tarot stands up to scrutiny? No. No, I don't. I think that would be a very daft thing to say. If I was to be asked for a yes-no answer, I would turn around to you and I would say no. Alright? Because it depends upon what you mean by scrutiny. Now, as a service, which is an entertainment service which is designed to provide some therapeutic benefit, via the vehicle of an individual, in this case myself, who is quite good at it. Alright? That in that respect, it could stand up to scrutiny as a good quality entertainment service that has some very strong therapeutic aspects to it because of the sensitivity to other people's needs that I personally have. In that respect, yes. In terms of, could you then take a tarot reader with their pack of cards, put them into a laboratory setting in a Faraday cage, and submit them to hard natural science, rigorous investigation? Probably not. I think that would be a very daft thing to say. So that's why I've often said things like, don't ask me to give you, I don't know, the atomic weight of uranium as a result of a card reading, because basically it would be pretty bloody stupid. Okay, I don't think we can find hard and fast facts, but weird things do happen. As far as, do the weird things that happen, could they be regarded as being reliable? No. I mean, with some clients I've had, it's been bloody impossible to do the work. I mean, seriously impossible. Maybe it's because of, their nature, or the fact they're closed, or I don't know. But sometimes I just find it very hard to get anywhere with anybody. But that's sometimes to do with the individual, and some people are harder to work with. I mean, even if I was a professional counsellor, I would find some people harder to counsel than others. Okay, and counselling is something which is regarded as being something which does stand up to scrutiny and criticism. Okay, so you're dealing with people here. Okay, we're not dealing with the temperature of water and what temperature it would boil if you had an air pressure of 0.5 atmospheres and the water had impurity X, Y, and Z put in it, and you use measuring tools of A, B, and C. It's not like a physical science. So to say that this could stand up to scrutiny using the ideas of natural science would be inappropriate. All right, completely inappropriate, and therefore the word would have to be no, no, it doesn't. But as far as does the history that I've had with a wide variety of clients who I could actually work with in terms of conversation, in terms of trying to help them, does that stand up to scrutiny? Yes, I've got a track record which is nearly 5 years long which demonstrates it. And yes, there are some people who I haven't been able to deal with well, or who are basically like the tarot reading equivalents of trolls, who've left some bloody awful feedback on my profiles, and some of them have essentially been inappropriate for the service, and I've had to actually put them off, because otherwise those individuals would have been led down the garden path incorrectly because of the way in which they perceive the world. So I've got to be sensitive to these people, and I've got to know when to put them off, okay, and actually to be off-putting to some individuals, to make sure that nothing bad happens to them as a result of the conclusions that they come to as a product of engaging with a tarot reader or a psychic, clairvoyant, medium, spiritualist, and all the rest of that. Okay. Now, the idea of how it actually works. I mean, oh dear. I mean, this is one of the most annoying questions in the whole wide world, because some people make claims as to how it works, and they would say it was all down to the astral energies, or no, God gave me this power, or I've got an angel or a spirit guide, or make stuff up if you want. Alright, you can make stuff up if you want. If there was an actual known way that this works, then great, but there isn't. There's only people who've got beliefs. The fact that people promote the beliefs about how this, in inverted commas, works, alright, because I think the phrase "it works" is pretty stupid as well. Okay, I don't think you can use that phrase because it gives you the presupposition that a tarot reading is just as reliable as turning on that light, which it isn't. So you've got to wipe that thought from your head. The phrase "it works" is stupid. Yes, I do often seem to promote skepticism because I want people to be thinking individuals. The New Age movement itself has gone completely and utterly off beam. Alright, completely and utterly off beam. And there are people within the New Age world who are promoting off beam ideas and are doing things which I personally regard as being thoroughly inappropriate, thoroughly unethical, and actually detrimental to human beings. I don't think that some ideas which are out there should actually be promoted. I think that they should be criticised, and it's rather good that later in life, namely the time of life that I'm at the moment, I'm capable of returning to the New Age world after having spent many years away from it, to be able to say I am in this world, I'm doing this for a living, I think you're doing wrong. Now, would you please kindly refrain from it and try to explain why? Because I think that's a good thing to do. I actually think that's an important thing to do, and I want people who are within the New Age world to be critical. What Yoyodyne Industries was doing was to provide so much more text, and I mean so much more text, that was flowery, eloquent, poetic, completely building up emotion using very strong, essentially sales tactics. If you had history in sales, you'll know what sales tactics are when applied to the written word. And the end result is something which you could see in the previous video. There are people who have developed very strong beliefs, possibly because they don't want to think that they've had all their money wasted, in something which has been sold in one particular way, rather than believing the disclaimer that was on their website. And so as such, there was big difficulties and big problems with the balance of truth and the way that truth was expressed on the Yoyodyne Industries website. That's why I've got a problem. Now, if what they'd said is we've made these things, we've made them out of electronic components, some people have made some claims. We can list 2 or 3 of their claims here. However, we're selling this as an entertainment product by way of a souvenir or as a form of decoration. And maybe they would add an extra thing to say that there are various different people of various different religions who ascribe various properties to these things, however we cannot possibly comment. That would have been a lot more ethical. But what Yoyodyne Industries went on about, the energies and changing your heart and opening you up, and complete rubbish. And expressed so powerfully as to warp a person's cognitive processes, the way that they think, okay, away from the truth and towards rubbish. Now, I don't know whether you've been able to understand what I've said here in this particular video. I know that from my experience on YouTube that I can very, very eloquently and passionately express something, and someone else can say they watched it, they really enjoyed the video, but yet they leave a comment or they make a response in one manner or another, which suggests they haven't quite understood the message. So I do apologize for reiterating these things to you. But it's important that you understand, okay? I'm someone who's within this New Age world at the moment. I'm someone who is, because I'm in this New Age world at the moment, capable of turning around to people who are also in this New Age world and pointing out where I think they're wrong. And I think that's actually one of the most important powers, so to speak, of my particular role in a political sense here, in the here and now. Alright? So try and get the balance right. Try and understand the different forms of genre of expression, and why I'm doing this. I mean, tarot is a great way for me to be able to engage with people who need certain specific varieties or genres of assistance, and to actually be able to help them in a manner which is appropriate for them, using language and techniques that they can understand. So, no matter what, I am actually doing what's right, okay? Although, yes, I am doing this for a living, okay? I'm doing this for a living. It's a very, very small living, actually. But essentially, I'm doing it for a living. But that doesn't mean to say that you have to be an extortionate bozo who goes around just basically trying to damage people's minds. There are lots of people who are doing this in unethical ways, and it's only through there being people like myself who are trying to do this and trying to express this and other occult related ideas in an ethical and intelligent manner that can help to redress the balance, and provide an alternative way of looking at these issues, and one which I personally approve of and think is a hell of a lot better. And so yes, I'm setting myself up to be hated, derided, criticized and demonized by many people of various different New Age or occult religious persuasions, as well as people who work in this industry. And I don't care, because I believe I'm doing right.